I'm with Jagi Lamplighter today, and she is the author of several books, fantasy novels, and her most recent one is The Unexpected Enlightenment of Rachel Griffin. And it's a, well, I'll let you describe it, Jagi.
I think the quickest way is Harry Potter meets Narnia with Dr. Doom.
Okay, and your main character is Rachel Griffin, right? Uh,
Yes, indeed.
and how old is she, and what is the school that she attends?
Rachel is the 13-year-old British girl who comes from a world of magic and therefore is kind of not familiar with a lot of modern world things. And she's attending Roanoke Academy for the Sorcerer's Arts, which is a magic school it's on the floating island of Roanoke. The background of the story claims that that's why the colony disappeared in Roanoke, because they were actually wizards and they got their sorcerers. They got the island to float, and they floated around for about 400 years, and they are currently moored in the Hudson in New York for reasons that don't come up in book one. And they've been there since the early 20th century. And the school is based, the magic school is based a little bit on St. John's College, which is where my husband and I went to college, just because it's a little bit of a different type of school. And I wanted a magic school that had a slightly different feel from either Hogwarts or quite a few other magic schools. And it's not like Rogue, it's not like some of the other schools out there. So it gave me a start. So that's where she starts out.
Oh, and your husband is also an author, isn't he?
He is indeed.
Yes.
He's got about 13, 14 books out now. He writes both fantasy and science fiction.
And Rachel has a difficult time at first at the school, doesn't she? Now, what kind of problems does she face there to start off with?
Well, Rachel is really, really good at what she's good at and not so good at anything else. And so she's the youngest child of a family of five, but her elder siblings went off to school a number of years earlier. So she's been living all by herself mainly. I mean, her parents are there, but she lives in this massive, massive British mansion, kind of like a castle. So she doesn't really have any social skills. She doesn't really have any friends. She doesn't know how to make friends. She has a perfect recall. She can remember everything. But she's been warned by her mother that if she tells people this, they'll probably take advantage of her. So she's trying to keep it secret. So she really doesn't know what to do when she gets to school. And she kind of, the first friends she tries to make don't work very well. She says all the wrong things. Takes her a little while to find people that she can connect with.
But well, she eventually does, though, and like one of them is Peter, and with his dragon Siggy, right? And
Siegfried. Peter's her
well,
brother. Siegfried is her friend, Siegfried Smith,
okay,
and his dragon's name is Lucky.
that's right.
And he is an orphan boy who grew up in a very bad situation, and only just recently learned that there's magic. So he's kind of crazy. Imagine that you'd lived in an extremely repressed situation. I remember kids coming to college who'd never been allowed to drink and just ruining a whole semester of their life. Ziggy's a little bit like that. He kind of doesn't know what's true and what's not true anymore because all his life he was told there was no magic, and all of a sudden he finds out there's magic. So everything he knew or thinks, he doesn't believe anymore. So he's kind of wild. And Rachel doesn't mind this, so they make a good friendship because she's willing to put up with his craziness, and he's not bothered by her being a little awkward in dealing with social things.
And Rachel, actually, she comes from royalty, doesn't she? And nobility.
She's nobility. Her father is a duke, so he's one of the high dukes of England. I don't think it says in the book, but when the English cut the House of the Lords back to only 95 people, her family was supposed to still be a member. So she's one of the top families in Britain.
Oh, and Rachel, well, her father is also sort of in a secret police kind of organization, right? But it's
he is an agent of the wisecraft. In the background, the magical world called the World of the Wise has agents. The agents are kind of half FBI, half magical animal tamers, half law enforcement. That's more than two halves. But they are the top trained magicians in their fields. And so he, in addition to being a duke, he's also one of he's actually in charge of the secret organization among the agents who are investigating new magic that has appeared on the world that nobody knows where it's coming from, called the Shadow Agency. But Rachel doesn't know that until the mysterious little boy tells her. So, that kind of takes her back a bit.
He's part of the school a little bit like, the Slytherins and Harry Potter, right? That he, a
little bit like that, in the 7 different schools of magic that are quite different from each other. And everywhere else in their planet, you can only study 1 or 2 at a time. Roanoke Academy is a place you can study all of them. And thaumaturgy requires live sacrifice of animals. Usually it involves giving some monster an animal to eat, but it's looked down on by the other schools who would prefer that kind of work not be done, who don't approve of sacrificing animals. So Rachel comes from a family of enchanters who play musical instruments and of conjurers who pull things out of the dream realm. And her family does not approve of thaumaturges, who tend to be where a lot of the dark magicians come, because dark magic involves sacrifice also. But the thaumaturge are not necessarily evil, so she doesn't know if he's kind of a good thaumaturge or actually tending towards an evil one.
What are some things that they do to her close to the start of the book?
Well, there's a spell that is cast on her that makes her freeze in place, and a second spell that makes part of her body swell up so that she's lopsided. And this is particularly embarrassing because she has to then get across campus to the infirmary to get help. And this is right at her beginning of the year, and she's extremely embarrassed. And she's helped by one of the proctors, who are kind of like the security guards on campus. But of course now she's very angry at the girls who have done this to her. And the one limitation of being friends with Siegfried Smith and his dragon is that he feels he can't attack girls. So he wants to revenge her, but he can't do anything against the girl. She has to find a more ingenious way to get revenge.
Some teachers were involved finding the original magicians and vanquishing them, and it seems as if that's all starting over again in the book, isn't it? And
there's certainly a hint of that. There was an event about 25 years before, when her parents were young, called the Terrible Years, when the process normally for punishing evil magicians is to turn them to stone. And somebody got a hold of a device to turn them back from stone and let 5 of the worst magicians of all time, including Morgan Le Fay and Simon Magus and a couple of others, out of their imprisonment. And they ravaged the land for a while. And they had a number of servant groups, including one called Veldamarung, which means Twilight of the World. And there's some hint that this group may be rising again.
Please let the readers of the Guardian Liberty Voice a few of the other books that you've... I mean, I've done reviews of them before, but they're all good. But well, thanks.
Yeah, wonderful reviews. Thank you. My other series is called Prospero's Daughter, and the books are Prospero Lost, Prospero in Hell, and Prospero Regained. And the shorthand description of those books is Shakespeare meets Dante. They're sequels to The Tempest. The main character is Miranda, and the idea of the books is that Prospero never drowned his magical books. He still has them. He's still around in our modern age, protecting human beings from magic, and he goes missing. And his daughter, the immortal Miranda, has to gather together the other children he's had in the last 400 years, who she's kind of not on good terms with when the book opens, and convince them that their father's actually missing. They don't believe her at first because he's so competent. They think she's kind of carrying on, and they have to go into hell and save him. And it sounds kind of highfalutin when I talk Shakespeare and Dante, but really it's a mystery
really
with
magic
and humor, and it's funny and fun, as I think you know, because
the Unexpected Enlightenment of Rachel Griffin. Where could readers find that? Is it in ebook form as well as paperback, right?
Yes, it is. Rachel Griffin is available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles online. It probably is not the local Barnes and Noble store, but it's available online, both as a trade paperback and as a Kindle or Nook book. You can also probably find it in some small bookstores and conventions, and it can be ordered from the publisher. It's available in both Kindle and Nook and in a physical, rather handsome-looking trade paperback. I was particularly delighted with the cover. The art was done by a gentleman named Dan Lawless, who used to draw for Marvel and DC. He used to do like Wolverine and Spider-Man and stuff, and he did a great job of catching the mood of the story on the cover. I should have brought a copy with me. I could have held it up here.
The Unexpected Enlightenment of Rachel Griffin might be targeted to the most.
Good question. It's targeted at older teens, but it seems to so far to be being enjoyed. Kids age 9 up through 90. It's written in a way so that younger people should be able to enjoy it, and older people also should find a lot in it. The series itself is not meant for children. There are things that come up later as they deal with some of the events as Rachel gets a little older and has to face some more terrible things that are not really appropriate for younger children, but the first couple of books are fine for 10, 11-year-olds.
I don't have much.
So right now it's kind of accessible to anybody who enjoys reading.
Well, you mentioned other books in the series. How many do you have planned, and which one are you writing right now?
It's a long series. I have serious piles of notes for at least 12 books, and it may be longer than that. I have finished book 2, which should be out this summer, which is called The Raven, the Elf, and Rachel. And I'm working on book 3, which is called Rachel in the Technicolor Dreamland. And the 4th book will be called The Awful Truth About Forgetting. And the 5th book, I can't remember the name at the moment. I think it's called Guardians of the Twilight Lands. But anyway, the story really builds like it's going, and Rachel has a great deal of both terrible and wonderful things ahead of her.
Sounds like it's going to be an excellent series, and
so I hope that it will continue to be enjoyed by readers.
The first book, and I'm sure that it will be. Oh yes, yeah.
I actually think they're bad because I had to spend so much time in the first book just setting up the background and giving an idea what the world is like, that I think the later books go a little faster and have a little more happen. So my hope is that people enjoy it even more as it goes along. Also, the romantic triangle and other things like that are not at all clear in the first book.
Those and
develops
talking to
as
you
the
more
story
in the
goes
future, Jagi, and I'm sure that our readers will be interested in getting copies of these books themselves, because they're really great books. And so I'll close the interview right now, but thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate it. Okay.